right, guys, welcome back to another video. We have a very interesting report here about the Xbox Activision Blizzard acquisition. Now, this is from the website here, mpfirst.com, and it says, report Microsoft and ABK considering pulling ABK from the UK and offering enforceable remedies as a way around Activision's CMA block. Now, as we know, the CMA blocked the Xbox Activision Blizzard acquisition, and they are in the appeals process. They had their first hearing to set a date to go through the appeal process the other day, where it was the Microsoft and the Activision lawyers versus the CMA, and there was a lot of back and forth, and there's a lot of consensus out there that the Microsoft and Activision lawyers just did a far better job than the CMA lawyers, and they got a date set here for the end of July to be able to go through the appeals process, and we'll see if Microsoft wins the appeal or not. Then there is the other option here, and that is just kind of pulling out of the UK, taking Activision Blizzard catalog out of the UK to circumvent, I guess, the blockage of the acquisition, and then closing the deal, especially because it's been accepted in places like the EU, and also 39 countries, I believe, so far, 40 countries, something like that, have approved this deal. Many of them have approved it without any remedies at all, unconditionally approved this deal. So we have this report here, and it is from MLEX. Now, in the last couple of weeks or week or so, there has been some controversy here with MLEX and IDAS on Reset Era and FOSS Patents, Florian Mueller, where MLEX is, if you don't know, I mean, before this entire thing started with Xbox Activision Blizzard, I had no idea what MLEX was. I think a lot of people didn't. I think there's people that probably thought MLEX was somebody or a username of somebody giving out these reports. But MLEX here is just a website, and it provides information about regulatory insights and stuff like that. They say here, our investigative news agency is solely focused on uncovering regulatory risk across the globe and is uniquely positioned to provide exclusive real-time market insights, news, and analysis. And you have to get an account to be able to actually access this information, but they don't give out an account to anybody. I don't believe, like when you're asking for a free trial, it asks you what company type you are, such as government, investment management, law firm, advisory, all of that type of stuff. So you're going to have to be somebody who actually is involved with regulatory stuff to get an account and get this information, because there has been tons of great reports and information that have come out of MLEX that we've been able to see because people who have accounts and access to it, specifically IDAS on Reset Era, who we have no idea who IDAS is. I mean, at the end of the day, he hasn't identified his real identity, which is something that's kind of been brought up here from FOSS Patents. But there's been some drama here because you have FOSS Patents here calling out IDAS, essentially saying he's against the deal. And the fact that he hasn't provided his identity is something to be wary of if you're looking at IDAS's information. In fact, he also goes on to talk about how talking about MLEX or exactly quoting what MLEX is saying isn't something that I guess is ethical in a way, or is illegal somewhat from what IDAS is doing by taking the information word for word and copying and pasting it into forms where all of these news websites pick it up. People on YouTube talk about essentially saying IDAS is breaking the law. But FOSS Patents says here, saying, I've been asked to comment on the MLEX exclusive report, according to which Microsoft has hired additional lawyers to explore ways of potentially closing the deal despite the CMA UK's merger block, which would amount to taking particular measures related to the UK situation and arguing the CMA decision was illegal at any rate. And he says, I respect MLEX and its subscription business model, so I don't copy or paraphrase in detail what they say, but the basic information can be, of course, discussed. And you can see here him talking about the whole MLEX situation. Now, when it comes to this report and Microsoft closing, here is what mpfirst.com says in terms of what we can take here from this MLEX report and the stuff that they have talked about. It says, therefore, in response to MLEX has learned, Microsoft has hired additional lawyers to find out possible ways to close the Activision deal despite the block from UK's CMA. One possibility includes ABK exiting the UK and relocating to another European country outside the jurisdiction of the CMA. Through this scenario, Activision will continue to sell its games through a distributor. So they would just pull out and relocate to another European country and then sell their games, I guess, through a third-party distributor or whatever. It's just kind of circumvent what the CMA blocking this deal. Now they say another possibility that Microsoft is exploring is to unilaterally extend the remedies it proposed and were accepted to the EU, European Commission, to the CMA. However, something along the lines of those remedies were proposed to the CMA but rejected. So, I mean, the remedies that were proposed to the EU were essentially the exact same remedies that were proposed to the CMA, and the CMA just took a different stance on this with the cloud gaming thing. That's why Xbox, Microsoft are appealing this, because it kind of doesn't really make any sense, especially if you look at some of the reasons why they actually went ahead and blocked this deal. First of all, they used the wrong numbers when it comes to cloud gaming, assuming that everybody who has Xbox Game Pass Ultimate is getting that subscription service just to do cloud gaming. It's their main way of gaming. They also assumed that Activision was going to be putting their games on cloud gaming services, whether this deal happened or not. And obviously that isn't the case. Activision even came out and said that they wouldn't be doing that. And you would ask yourself, why would they do that when they're currently in such a strong, dominant position within the market with games like Call of Duty? Why would they go out of their way and make the 10-year deals that Microsoft have been making to give their licenses worldwide free to all of these smaller streaming servers? They wouldn't do that. So that was something the CMA saying that they would do, which goes against kind of what people believe would happen if this deal does get blocked. So those are two main things that you could easily argue that they were wrong on. But they continue on here to say, however, something along the lines of those remedies were proposed to the CMA rejected. This approach will require Microsoft to voluntarily implement measures to address concerns specific to the UK market. And then they say here, Microsoft is also currently challenging the draft issued by the CMA that prevents them from acquiring any interest in the CMA for 10 years. And CMA's ability to impose global ban to address concerns in the UK market is the central concern. And Microsoft may possibly challenge the CMA's order and narrow its scope to the UK only and allow the deal to close elsewhere in the world. So they would go ahead, close it everywhere else, and then challenge the CMA, which is, I mean, something that is another option for them. And again, they're going through this whole appeals process right now, which you would think that their lawyers are doing as good as people think that they're doing. They have those arguments that make the CMA's decision irrational. They should just win through the appeal process if their arguments are strong as people believe. Now, finally, it says, lastly, MLEX understands that Microsoft is also looking at the possibility of going ahead with the acquisition itself and later argue in court the CMA's draft is illegal if challenged by legal action by the UK watchdog. So the summary of what came out of this that is being reported is that Microsoft is looking at other ways to get around the CMA. If they're going to continue to block this deal, if they lose the appeal, they are going to be looking at different ways to get around this deal and still go ahead and close the deal overall. So it looks like things are moving along, and it looks like there is that chance that they're still going to close the deal no matter what happens with the CMA. No matter how irrational they believe that they are being, they will still go ahead and find a different way to make sure that Xbox and Activision Blizzard King are officially together. But we will see what happens, and we'll continue to follow all of the different reports that come out here, because it is getting pretty juicy as we're going through June. I guess we just started June, and then heading to the end of July for when that appeal date and when that appeal process is really going to be happening. That will be very, very interesting to see. And if it gets to August 2nd, where they're going to be battling the FTC in court, that will also be extremely interesting to keep track of. But I'm going to end the video there, guys. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up. If you are new here, hit that subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.